Yummy coffee. Good morning. Fall is here. The air is a little bit cooler today, and it's my favorite time of year. So I wanted to talk to you a minute about the fall garden. Now, from the very beginning of this project, I knew that I wouldn't get too much out of the fall garden that I was starting because I got a late start. The first thing I wanted to talk to you about is why I say that. So right now I only have one brassica, but there's many brassicas out there. Brassicas are one of the fall favorites. So brassicas are things like broccoli, cauliflower, I think kale, Brussels sprouts is a brassica, and brassicas like the cooler weather. Well, in Kentucky, the best time to start your brassicas is, it says here, this broccoli packet is in June or July. So you could start your seeds indoors even before that, and it takes, looks like 71 days to harvest. So you want to make sure you have 71 days to harvest after transplanting that brassica, or whatever the package calls for. So for broccoli, I didn't have much of a chance because I needed to have started that indoors June or July, and I really didn't start my gardening project until August. So I direct sowed everything I have. I didn't start any seedlings, but I will be starting them in the spring. Another thing that you can start in the fall is salad greens. I got a lot of salad greens, and this is an heirloom seed. Now, I mentioned in the last video that I didn't want to use too many of these seeds, and the reason for that is that you can save seeds for many, many years. So even though they're packaged for this year, you don't have to throw them out just because they are packaged for this year and now the year is over. The seeds in general, not just the heirloom seeds, even though heirloom seeds are very precious because they're a variety that's been around a really long time and been preserved carefully by those who are growing it. But in general, your seeds don't have to go to waste just because they're packaged for a year. I do have a lot of seeds that I bought this year, and I'm going to be using them next year and in some following years. There are a few of the seeds that you really can't use year after year. Onion seeds are not good to keep, more than 1 or 2 years, but tomato seeds can last many, many years. They will decrease in their viability year after year, but you don't have to throw away your seeds. Chard, you can grow. It's very cold hardy, it'll withstand the frost, so that's why I went ahead and direct sowed my chard, and I'm hoping that I can get some this winter even after the frost. Arugula is a fall hardy, and spinach. I put it in a bag because I'd opened it and I didn't want the seeds escaping. I could use tape. I just chose to use a zippy bag. Spinach. Now, if you look on the back of the spinach package, spinach can be planted in September in Kentucky. It can be planted late in the season. It's very, very cold hardy. And its days to harvest is only 30 to 40 days. Now that's 30 to 40 days after transplant. You have to consider that whenever you're doing seeds. These days to harvest usually mean after transplanting. So if you're direct sowing, that's after they've come out of the ground. If you're transplanting, that's after you've put them in the garden. The timeline is not static. You can't count the time that this seed sprouted against the time the seed in the house sprouted, because the transplant will actually give the seedling a shock and slow it down. So even though your seedling in the house is bigger, the one in the garden is going to catch up, that's been direct sown, is going to catch up to it faster because it is not being transplanted and it's not experiencing that shock. So I just wanted to kind of go over seeds and what kind of things you can grow in the fall. So we went over brassicas and salad greens, and those are very cool weather, fall hardy. Another thing that you can plant are root vegetables. They love the cool weather. Now, I don't have any parsnips, which I want, or turnips either, but I do have carrots. Lots and lots of carrots. I've got different varieties of carrots and they're already planted. I could probably plant some more, and they are very cold weather hardy. It's fall, man. The wind is blowing, the cool air is moving in, and it is my favorite time of year. It gives me that feeling you can sit in a warm, cozy sweater, out in the heat of the sun and still be cool. And it just makes it easier to breathe that cool, crisp air for me. It just makes me slow down, take bigger breaths. It makes me want to just, you know, reflect, really. Reflect on what's, you know, what the year before has been, what I've accomplished, and what I want to accomplish going forward. And what I want to accomplish going forward in this garden is to be successful and learn every year. Every year is a learning garden. I started this project thinking this year is just a learning garden. I'm gonna forgive myself if I have all different kinds of failures, and I'm not gonna worry about it. But every year's a learning garden. So don't worry about it. If you are trying to start a garden and you fail on something, a pest gets something, and you're just devastated, remember, you're learning about that pest. Use that opportunity to figure out what that pest doesn't like and how to get rid of it, or how to deter it next time, or what to plant next to your plant in order for that pest not to find it. Use it as an opportunity. Study about it. Don't take it as a failure. Always take your losses as a learning opportunity, and you'll do better the next year, and you'll grow from that, and that'll be something that you can take pride in, that I grew from that experience. All right, so we've talked about seeds and we've talked about the fall garden, and you'll notice behind me that I have hoops on this bed behind me. Now, the last time you saw this bed, it actually had a trellis back here, and it was the smallest trellis that I was reusing, and I took the trellis out. And the reason is because I had a lot more in this bed that was cold weather hardy and that could last and produce something than I had in any of the other beds this year. And I want to try to make this my cool weather bed because it's going to get shade from the tomato trellises when they are full. I looked it up, and the direction of the sun in the middle of the summer. So on suncalc.org, I looked to see what the angle of the sun would be in July, just for an example, so that I could get a number. And so it was 26.5 degrees is the angle of how the sun will hit the earth in my area. And so if the height of this trellis is 6 foot high, the shade that it's going to provide if it was completely covered in July would be 12 foot. Okay, so the trellis, the first trellis here is 6 foot tall from the ground up. It's a 4 foot trellis, and the raised bed is 2 foot, so it's approximately 6 foot tall. And so its projected shadow will be 12 foot long, which puts the tail of the shadow right about here where this string is. So I've tied this string to the top of the trellis to see where the shadow will actually hit my second raised bed. So as I come down, it actually hits the second raised bed at the bottom of this trellis. So the good news is that the shadow will not shadow this trellis at all. This trellis will be in full sun, just like this one. My hope was that these two beds with the tomatoes in them would get plenty of sun, but for this bed behind me, I know that this tomato trellis, once it's full in the summer, it's gonna shade this bed. So I have a bed that's gonna be shaded and perfect for fall vegetables, to start in the early spring and then harvest around June, and then maybe start another in July or August that I've grown inside, get them out here and get them going again for fall. Next year's gardening plan, I'm going to share with you in another video. But in this video, I'd like to share with you how I'm going to extend my season for fall. We are actually on the Cumberland Plateau. We are at a higher elevations than some of the bigger cities that are in Kentucky. If you go to the Farmer's Almanac and type in your zip code, it will tell you what your last frost date is in the spring and your first frost date will be in the fall on average, and how long your growing season will be. So if you look up Louisville, Kentucky, for example, I believe they have a 208-day growing season, and in my area I only have 154 days. My first frost will actually be around October 7th, not November 10th like I was thinking. So I've got to think about frost. If I want to fall garden at all and to extend my season, I've got to think about that frost, because it is considered the killing frost, and it will kill most of my plants. It won't kill the chard, but it'll kill pretty much everything else. So I've got to protect them. And to do that, I have purchased some hoops behind me. Now, the hoops I got at Lowe's. They are just water piping is all they are. You can get a whole roll of it, a 1/2-inch tube for $18. And I got the 3/4 inch, the slightly bigger tubes for $23. So it's not very high, and you get 100 foot of it. I've got all of these 6 hoops out of that roll plus some. I've got one piece that I'm going to put across the top of the hoops to make it sturdy as a ridge. I've created these clips that I made just from this roll of tubing. All I did was cut 4-inch pieces and then cut about 25% out of the clip, and then it can go right onto the wood on the side of the bed here. Now, the wood on the sides of my beds is not the 2-inch thick wood. It's only the 1-inch thick wood or 3/4 inch thick wood. Not if you were using 2-inch wood all the way around, you just use the hoops themselves to put the clips on. I've got some clamps, and I'm going to use 1 or 2 per side to get that hoop to stay stationary. They're not going to need a lot of strength with the blanket cover that I have. This was about $20 on Amazon, and it prevents damage from frost, cold weather, and pests during the growing season. It's a 10 foot by 30 foot cover, and this bed I'm probably gonna double it up and use 2 pieces because each piece should increase the bed temperature by a couple of degrees, up to 5 degrees maybe, and it will keep off the frost. So that's the main thing. I just wanted to share with you some of the things that I'm doing to extend my season and this fall garden, and get something out of it this year. Man, you can tell it's fall when the crows are singing and flying, and you see the birds migrating and things. It is here. All right, well, coffee's empty. Time to get started. So as the weather gets cooler, this cover may stay on all day long if it's going to be under 50 degrees. But if it's going to be 60 or 70 or 80 during the day, I want to open it up so I don't have problems with heat, too much heat on these plants. And so at nighttime though, I'm going to close it up and put some clips down on this side. That way the heat that the soil has gathered throughout the day from the sun can radiate and warm up the air within the tunnel. Okay, that's our video for today, and thank you so much for watching. Have a good one. Bye.
We're on this little mountain.
Perfect.
Little mountain. Another one right where that one was. Nothingness, Shelby.
What you playing?
Oh, I don't know. I just made this plant up. It's actually that, but I just made it up.